Guys, welcome back. It is Racer X, and today I actually want to talk a little bit about a subject that I get a lot on my videos. It's a question that comes up quite frequently. Should I modify my V6, whether it's the Chrysler 300, the Charger, or the Challenger SXT? You've got all of those actually sitting right behind me here. Believe it or not, this is we're talking about the Pentastar 3.6 liter V6 here. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on if you should modify that engine or not. There are a lot of those cars out there, so I will do my best to let you know whether I think it is a good idea or not. Also, guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, which is right down here in the corner, and we are off. We got the 1,000 horsepower helmet. So as you can see, I am with my buddies here at Cooley in Arlington, Texas. And so I've gone ahead and lined up all three of these cars. As you can see, I do have the Challenger SXT, I have the Chrysler 300, and I have the Charger SXT. All of these have the exact same power plant in them. It is that 3.6 liter workhorse that Dodge makes, the Pentastar. And you'll find these under the hood of a lot of Dodge and Chrysler's top-selling vehicles. So let's talk a little bit about this engine. So there you have the engine in the Charger SXT. This is a, once again, 3.6 liter, obviously. This is a dual overhead cam engine. Puts out somewhere around, it's like 292 horsepower, somewhere around the 260s in torque. And you're going to find actually the exact same motor right over here in the 300. And once again over here in the Challenger. So all these have the same output. If you go to the GT in either the Charger or the Challenger, I think you get a little bit more horsepower. We'll say maybe, I think it's 305. So a slight bump. But essentially, you've got 4 different cams in this engine. And it is well, it's not obviously the top of the line. This is actually sort of the base engine that you get in these cars. It still has some punch and it can still be fun. So the truth is, Dodge, they have a lot of trim levels. I mean, let's take the Challenger, for example. Really, you can get into the, say, mid to high 20s on an SXT that's very, very base. And then you can just keep jumping up and up and up in trim level. For example, you jump up to the 5.7 RT. After the RT, you're going to get the 6.4 liter naturally aspirated Hemi you'll find in the Scat Pack. After that, you jump on up to the Hellcat, which is 717. That's not enough. How about 797 in the Red Eye? Now, of course, we have the Super Stock, which is even more than that. I think it's like 807 horsepower. That's not enough. How about a Demon? We can go all the way up to 840 on race gas. You can see that Dodge just goes up and up and up. So here's the deal, guys. Not everybody has the ability. So there's always that comment, right? Well, instead of buying the V6, you should buy the V8. Instead of buying the 5.7 RT, you should just buy the Scat Pack, and so forth and so on. And before you know it, you've gone from a $25,000 car to a $100,000 car. And not everybody has the ability to just keep going up and up and up in trim. So a lot of people say, hey, look, you know what? I have a V6 and I like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I really show appreciation for all the trim levels that these guys make. So I do want to talk a little bit about if you own an SXT or the V6, maybe it's a GT, whatever, maybe you've got a 300 V6. Should you modify that, and is it a good idea? Truth is that Dodge, when they designed this thing, they did not design it to be a race car. But it's very, very important that people understand. If it wasn't for the V6 variants in these cars, there most likely would not be the Demons and the Hellcats of the world, because there just aren't enough people out there willing to buy those or have the budget to do so. Fact is, they sell more of this trim level than all the other trims combined. This is the moneymaker for FCA. So you have to keep that in mind. Like I said, this is not designed to be a race car. This is really designed for the masses. It's designed as a car that still looks good. It still has that kind of heritage, but it is a daily cruiser. It's designed to be reliable. It's designed to drive nice, have some nice features in it, really kind of get from point A to point B. So to try and turn this thing into a race car doesn't really make a lot of sense in my mind. And let me tell you why. So typically, when you turn up the wicks on these cars, as with any car, it makes it less reliable to some extent. Now, if you don't go super crazy with it, typically it won't bite you in the butt. And what I mean by that is it is okay to do intake work, say a cold air intake on these cars. It is okay to do a little bit of exhaust work to try and make the car sound nice. But keep in mind, this is the most fuel economic vehicle that Dodge produces in these trims. So, you have to really give that thought in terms of what they really meant the car to do. It's meant to be comfortable and drive nice and just be an enjoyable driving experience. And I will say, these cars of all the trims actually probably drive the smoothest. I've driven all of them many times, and the driving experience of these, while they're not typically said to be fast per se, it is quite nice. They're nice cruising vehicles, and you don't have to pay a lot for them, and that's the really great part about it. So if you start getting invasive with these engines, okay, you start throwing cams in there. Well, keep in mind, it's 4 cams in this, so you have to replace all 4 of them, and it's just not worth the squeeze. And some people say, well, look, I really want my V6 to compete with an RT. Can you do that? Yeah, you can do that, but is it worth all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars you're going to throw at this thing between, putting headers on the car and putting the exhaust and all the porting work and the intake and the cam and all the other stuff you've got to do? And in most cases, you're probably going to have to boost it. And yes, they make a supercharger for this. There's actually a couple of them out there. They have the RIPP supercharger, and they have a couple of them that work well. But in my honest opinion, you're taking away from what this car is really meant to do, and that's to be reliable, to look good, to be fun. And like I said, this isn't a race car. It's hard to make it a race car unless you're going to just throw the kitchen sink at it, aftermarket engine, just whatever. And at that point, is it worth doing, guys? That is always where we're at. So if you want to enjoy these, enjoy them, but don't go crazy with mods. So as you can see, I'm here looking at the Charger SXT, and it stickers right at a little over $31,000. And by the time you got, the bonus, the Dodge Power Dollars, all the kind of stuff, the discounts the dealer was willing to give you, heck, this thing could be had most likely in the high 20s, if not even better. And when you really look inside this, it really doesn't look all that different than my Hellcat. As a matter of fact, let me get inside here and show you. So here you go. This is the look from inside the Dodge Charger. This is a base Dodge Charger, guys, but you can see it's still a really nice place to sit. It's got a nice infotainment center in it. This actually looks very, very similar to my Hellcat. Same here, same cup holders. I mean, this thing does pretty much anything you would need it to do, and it's not necessarily slow for your average person. Like I said, it's not a race car, but it is actually still a really nice place to sit and do business. Let me close that up. And you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with these trims, guys. That is why they sell so many of these. The average person is not a race car driver. The 300, by comparison, it is, a couple $1,000s more. But as you look at it, I mean, it's a nice place to sit. It does have a similar feel to the Charger, but as you can see, the gauges are a little bit different. Honestly, it has kind of a nice upgraded type feel to it, but everything really does feel very similar to the Charger. It has a really nice fit and finish, and like I said, I'm guessing this thing could be had for under $30,000, and it is a really nice driving car. So even the base of these is still pretty solid. And just for reference, here's a quick look inside the Challenger SXT. From a fit and finish perspective, you can see that it does feel very similar to the other two. Maybe not quite as upgraded as the 300 feels, but it still feels nice. I do love the fact that that dash kind of wraps a little towards the driver. This has a little bit more of a muscle feel to it than the other two. But then again, same kind of seats. And this one could probably be had for also in the mid to high 20s if you got a great deal from your dealer. So just a really solid lineup, even in base trim. So guys, I am actually driving the Charger SXT now, and yeah, I mean, the thing, like I said, it still has a fair amount of pickup. It's not so much that it's going to surprise you. Obviously, it all depends on what you're used to, but at the end of the day, it definitely doesn't feel like it is lacking in power by any stretch of the imagination. And the one thing that I will say about when I drive the 6-cylinder versions of these vehicles is that, man, you really do notice how smooth they drive. The driving experience in these is actually quite nice. It's actually quite quiet in the cabin, and I would imagine that the 300 and the Challenger, they feel almost the exact same way, but it's just a really smooth, enjoyable driving experience. So I have absolutely no complaints with the way these cars drive. So guys, if you are looking for a grumbly V8, I would not suggest getting the SXT or the 300 with the V6. It is just really, really hard to make those things sound like a beefy V8. Now, if you're just looking for sound, the 5.7 is fantastic. It's not going to perform quite like the Scat Pack and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, it's a 6-cylinder. So does that mean you can't have fun with it? Absolutely not. So there are lots of mods out there for these cars. I mean, like I said, they even have superchargers for them, but it will not be cheap to do. Putting cams in these is not cheap to do. So my advice for anybody that owns a V6 that says Racer X, please, I want to do some stuff to my car. There's nothing wrong with it. Go ahead and do your intakes. Do a cold air intake. You can even port the manifold if you want to go crazy with it. But my suggestion, if you want to throw some exhaust work on the car, go ahead. It's not going to really hurt anything. Even if you tune it, it's probably not going to hurt anything. Now, when you start getting into the engine, adding boost or putting cams in the car and all that kind of stuff, you're going to reduce the reliability of the vehicle and really kind of negate everything that vehicle is meant to do. And you're probably going to open Pandora's box. It's just going to be cost prohibitive. And at the end of the day, my suggestion would be, yeah, you probably should go out and buy an RT or an SRT or something like that. Maybe even a used one, whatever it may be. So that is my best advice for you on modding the V6. Make them your own. Now, one other quick thing I do want to mention. If you're somebody that likes to do a lot of aesthetic stuff, the V6s are fantastic because they're not race cars and they're less expensive. It's a great platform to say, throw on a bunch of wheels or, if you like doing lights or whatever your thing is. But if you like doing a lot of aesthetic stuff, maybe go for the V6 so you can afford more of the aesthetic stuff you want to do if you're not going to be racing it and you don't really care about the performance. So that is it in a nutshell. We have 3 great cars back here, and they're all very competitively priced, and they're all a great place to sit and travel and get from point A to point B and just enjoy. They have some great features and amenities even in stock trim. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, you agree with my assessment, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.